Level 1. Gaslighting. Gaslighting is a covert form of psychological abuse in which the manipulator makes you doubt your own memory, perception, or sanity. You are sure you left your keys on the table, yet someone keeps moving them and then insists that you always forget where you put them. Over time, this makes you question your own mind. The term originates from the play Gaslight, 1938, where a husband manipulates his wife into thinking she is going insane by secretly dimming the gas lamps and denying that anything has changed. Gaslighting often begins subtly, gradually undermining your confidence. Over time, the victim may come to rely entirely on the manipulator's version of reality. A gaslighter may use phrases like, "You're too sensitive," or "It was just a joke," "You're overreacting," to dismiss your valid feelings and make you seem irrational. Another example, imagine you clearly remember agreeing with a colleague to meet at 2 p.m. You show up on time, but he insists the meeting was at 10 a.m. and even claims you confirmed it. Despite your strong memory, he keeps denying and distorting the events until you frantically check your notes and begin to wonder, maybe I did mix something up? Level 2. Guilt tripping. Guilt tripping occurs when someone emotionally shifts the burden of their dissatisfaction or unhappiness onto you, making you feel responsible for their emotional state. Imagine you decide to go on vacation with new friends. Instead of being happy for you, your old friend says, "Of course you can go. I guess I'll just have to cancel my plans. I don't really have anyone else to go with, but I don't want to burden you." Suddenly, your excitement turns into guilt. That's guilt tripping. Essentially, it's an attempt to control your behavior. The manipulator wants you to do something, stay with them, give up your plans. But instead of asking directly, they exploit your sense of duty and empathy. This tactic works because we don't want to be the cause of someone else's suffering, so we rush to fix the situation even when we're not actually responsible. You become an emotional rescuer, carrying guilt that isn't yours. Level 3. Love bombing. Love bombing is like a fast-track launch of a relationship where you're overwhelmed with such intensity of affection that your rational thinking shuts down. The goal is to quickly create emotional dependency. You get so used to constant approval that you start craving it. Imagine meeting someone who immediately showers you with excessive attention and affection. They give you expensive, unsolicited gifts, call you the perfect match after only a few dates, and constantly say you're meant to be. This isn't romance, it's love bombing. The problem begins when the manipulator, after securing your attachment, suddenly pulls away or starts criticizing you. Now you desperately try to return to that honeymoon phase, adjusting your behavior to earn the same affection. By this point, you're emotionally hooked, and the manipulator has full control over your well-being. This is a common tactic at the beginning of abusive relationships, rapid bonding for later control. Level 4. The silent treatment. The silent treatment is emotional manipulation where a person stops communicating as punishment or a means of control. It's a passive-aggressive power game in which the manipulator holds all the cards. For example, you have a minor disagreement with a family member about a political news story. It seems resolved until they suddenly stop answering your calls, ignore your messages, and act as though you don't exist when you're in the same room. You're left confused, anxious, and desperately trying to understand what you did wrong. This tactic is effective because humans are wired for connection. When communication is cut off, it triggers panic and self-blame. Should I apologize? How can I earn their attention again? The silent party creates a power imbalance, forcing you to beg for their acknowledgement and conform to their terms. Although it may not look like direct aggression, the silent treatment is extremely damaging because it blocks healthy conflict resolution and keeps you emotionally on edge. Level 5. Triangulation. Triangulation occurs when a manipulator brings a third person into the dynamic to create imbalance or conflict between you and them. Think of it as a triangle, the manipulator at the top, with you and a third party at the other 2 points. The manipulator's goal is to maintain control and avoid facing problems directly. By involving someone else, they gain validation and make you doubt your own perspective because now you're not facing just one person. You're facing two, or your perception of two. This tactic often shifts blame or distracts from the real issue. For example, a parent might tell one child how useless the other is, turning siblings against each other so the parent stays at the center and avoids criticism, a knot. Another example. Your boss is upset with you, but instead of discussing it directly, they tell a coworker about your incompetence. The coworker then begins treating you with suspicion. By involving a third party, the manipulator distorts facts to appear right or to create conflict between you and someone else. Level 6. Projection. Projection is a psychological defense mechanism that becomes manipulation when a person attributes their own unacceptable traits, feelings, or thoughts to someone else. Someone who feels strong envy may accuse their partner of being jealous or insecure. Imagine you're sitting with a friend who constantly shows up late and breaks promises. When you point it out, they indignantly respond, "Why are you so disorganized? Your lateness is unbearable." Even though the issue is their behavior, that's projection. People use projection to protect their ego and avoid confronting their flaws. It's easier to say, "The problem is you," than to admit, "I'm jealous" or "I'm angry." It's an emotional boomerang. Instead of processing their own difficult feelings, they throw them at someone else. This allows the manipulator to dodge responsibility, while the victim is left feeling confused and unfairly accused. Level 7. Blame shifting. Blame shifting is when a person refuses to acknowledge their mistake or responsibility and instead shifts the blame onto someone else, often the victim. Instead of saying, "Sorry, I forgot to buy the tickets," they say, "Well, I wouldn't have forgotten if you hadn't rushed me with other things." Blame shifting is a toxic defense mechanism designed to protect the manipulator's ego and maintain control. It prevents healthy conflict resolution because instead of addressing the real issue, both people are dragged into a game of who's at fault. Manipulators use this tactic to avoid consequences and make the victim feel unstable or responsible for things outside their control. This tactic appears when someone makes a mistake but refuses to face the consequences. They twist the situation so the spotlight moves away from their wrongdoing and onto something you supposedly did wrong. Suddenly you feel guilty for rushing or not reminding them, even though it was their responsibility.